Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Armstrong. In the first episode we built this rather nice now looking reservoir, which is kind of going to be the central point for the entire city and everything. We're kind of going to base everything around. In this episode we're actually going to start building the downtown of my city. As you can see, I was kind of hoping today to show you building the sort of first little suburb. It's going to be this area called Settlers Park, which you can kind of see here. Unfortunately, I forgot to record that. So instead you're getting these cinematics. It's not necessarily the most beautiful part of town. I think my idea for it was that it would be like the sort of starting point. So you'd build these houses that could be sort of used by new people coming to the city, the builders, the electricians, people who are actually going to build the city. And that would be the sort of starting point for everything. And those people would be there. And from there, those people could then start sort of building the wider city. Once you had these sort of initial sections, the idea of this sort of settler square area is you had a lot of sort of prefabricated houses, a fairly sort of cookie cutter scenario, build it quick and build it easy. So as you see over here, the sort of other side of this forest, ignore the burning, the forest will rebuild one day. It's kind of where the city centre proper is going to go. So we can probably get on with the montage from here. So the montage is going to kind of probably be split into two videos. The downtown is sort of quite a big build, so I imagine there will sort of be two videos to this part. In this video I'm probably going to do sort of everything that's essentially to the north of this main road, and then you'll see in the sort of second video I kind of probably going to go to the sort of south of that road. A lot of this was just mostly placing buildings and then replacing buildings and kind of just trying to see what would work and fit. I'm sort of starting off with the more commercial downtown area, and then as it expands to the sort of now currently up at the screen, now right of the screen, it becomes more sort of a residential area as we head in that general direction and head through the city centre. And my plan is long term there's going to be a park as we head down that way as well, and then we're going to get sort of more stuff beyond the park and so on. But for this part, I sort of building this sort of commercial centre and these more, I guess, sort of mid-rise residential buildings in this downtown area. I was using these lots that are essentially 8x8 squares. I stole this idea from Prez's videos. Once more, for those who haven't watched Prez's videos, watch Prez's videos. He's much better at this than me. But he had the sort of point that if you have these 8x8 grids, you end up with a lot more building diversity and a lot more variation in how your lots look. So I'm kind of sort of stealing that idea and having these quite small lots bunched together throughout the city. I try and do some sort of basic decoration as I go and some basic low-level detailing. I don't want to go too hardcore in it because I hate detailing and I suck at it. But I'm sort of trying to give some kind of life to these blocks as I kind of go through. You'll notice as we get to this sort of last row of buildings before the main road, I don't tend to go all the way up to the edge of the road. The reason for that is because I kind of hadn't decided at this point exactly what I was going to do with that road there. That road there is kind of sort of a main road. There's a bit of a placeholder at the moment. Later on I do go through and put a fairly more substantial road there. But at the time I was building this, I didn't quite know exactly how that road was going to work and how it was going to fit. So I kind of made this last row of buildings not quite go all the way up to that main road. As you can see, a lot of this is just going through and placing buildings and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work. Something I did a little bit after this video and before I started building the next section of downtown. So the sort of part 2 of this is going to be a little bit smoother. And the reason for that is I went through and placed every single building I had downloaded or that came with the game. I placed every single residential or commercial building down, and then I went through and tagged them all using the Find It mod. And that allowed me to then basically be able to call up and be like, okay, I want a mid-rise building, or I want a sort of terrace block type building, and I could just call it up like that, and that saved me a ton of time in the long run, although it was absolutely hellish to do. I think it took me about maybe 3 hours to go through and literally place the building and be like, okay, is this a low rise, a mid rise, a high rise, or what have you. So that took a long time, but I think it does in the long term save me a lot of time, and you'll see that hopefully more in the next video. So you'll see here I actually spent a little bit of time doing a bit of road tweaking. I really liked the idea of having this old road sort of go through the city. So most of the city is on this very strong grid pattern, but it's not aligned to the same grid the original farms were that were meant to be here. And I liked the idea of having this road through the middle of the city that was going to go at sort of close to a 45-degree angle and just sort of carve through the middle. And you'll see I actually call it Old Farm Road in a minute. And the idea was that this was like the route of the original road that used to be here before this became a town. And this is the road that sort of was here before we started building the main city, because the city itself is orientated towards the lake as opposed to what was there beforehand. So yeah, I really like the idea of having this road kind of carve right through the middle. I think it adds a great deal of character. And you'll see later on, even though that road's comparatively small compared to the other two big main roads, it's kind of the one that doesn't let stuff get in its way. And you'll notice particularly once we get to the sort of outline I've kind of got for the park in my head. My idea for the central park is that pretty much all roads but those three, this Old Farm Road and the two main roads at either side, will kind of stop for this park. But those three will be allowed to continue on through it. So it does have a sort of, I guess, an importance to it beyond just its angle. then having this road go at the sort of 45-degree angle obviously then also creates a sort of additional small challenge in what you do with these new shapes you then get for some of the blocks, because now you end up with blocks that aren't simple straightforward squares, and that does kind of create a sort of new and I guess fun challenge in how you're then going to use the space in these squares. So I spent a little bit of time trying to figure out how best to then shape the collection of buildings I had to these these blocks that weren't quite squares. They were, you know, sometimes just straight up triangles, and sometimes they're sort of squares with a lopsided edge and things like this. So that you do end up with sort of very differently designed buildings in this area too. However, I think I said I was going to stop this video once we got to sort of below the main road, and that's clearly what's beginning to happen here. So I'm going to stop this video here, and the next one we'll basically pick up from where we are. We might even get a whole 20 seconds of overlap, and we'll pick up and start sort of south of this main road, and we'll continue on building the downtown.